Wednesday. This is Shredded Cels episode 8 of Tech Heads Podcast, part of AVW Productions here at Ohio University. Ooh.
No comment, Jeremy?
Nope.
Oh, yeah.
That's not a good thing.
Yes, and that was our wrestling opening, I should say, for this episode of Shredded Cels, episode 8. We are part of Tech Heads, which is part of AVW Productions, a video production organization here at Ohio University. My name is Alex Schmitz, and joining me today is Mark Goldsmith.
Mark the Shark.
Mark the Shark Goldsmith. Ooh. And Jeremy Jerbear Zajac.
Now, I'm not saying that I'm not being held here against my will, and for those who didn't know double negatives, please help.
Very nice, everyone. All right. Yes, no Matt Lunn or Kenneth McNulty today because they have things called homework, supposedly.
They escaped.
Yeah, no kidding.
It was like the Shawshank Redemption.
They didn't want to be here. So are you saying I'm like the prison warden, basically?
That's terrifying.
Nah. I'm not that bad. All right, but no, yes, they have an excuse, I guess. Exams, academics come first, before anime, I suppose, maybe. But the first thing we're going to talk about today, we're going to resurrect the little segment, the news segment, which we haven't talked about in a while. But today, just a couple hours ago, we had a really big breaking news story from Adult Swim tweeting and putting on their Facebook page that Toonami is going to be coming back on May 26th of this year.
Oh, yeah.
In the immortal words of Reggie, my body is ready.
Yeah, no kidding. I discussed a little bit with Matt about this, and according to an Anime News Network posting, it seemed like they were just going to put the Toonami name on the Adult Swim programming, but it would appear that the site that they were looking at to look at the schedule is out of date, so they might actually change it to some of the older shows, which would be awesome, in my opinion.
You know what? Cool. Again, I know I've mentioned this already, but I don't even need that. The fact that I don't have to watch those crappy Adult Swim bumps anymore between the commercials is more than enough for me.
Yeah. Well, just to get Tom's voice and hear Steve Blum do "Only Toonami," that voice he does is so
deep,
cool.
rugged voice.
Yeah, he's kind of the master of that, isn't he?
Yep.
So yes, that's big news. May 26th. We'll see. I will try to watch it. I believe it is airing at the Adult Swim time block, not like when Toonami used to air at like 9 or 10. It's going to be at midnight sort of time slot.
That was it. Originally would show from like 9 o'clock until like 6 a.m. the next day.
Wow, was that long?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I remember staying up the whole time just to watch a block of it.
Yeah.
I don't really remember why now, but I think it might have had something to do with lots and lots and lots of caffeine. My parents should not have let me get coffee.
That is a dangerous thing. Yeah. It's a bit of a bummer that it's not at an earlier time slot because that's more accessible to newer viewers, kids. But, we'll take what we can get. It's just cool that, the fan support for Toonami after they did the April Fool's showing that managed to convince Adult Swim to return the block, which I think is a really great thing.
Other than Pokemon, Toonami is what got me into anime. So I would really hope that other people...
Mark.
Sorry, I got a text.
You're not walking out of here alive, Mark.
But that was scary. Anyways,
red rum. You don't kill people in wrestling. Jeez.
Yes, this is still talking about wrestling.
What kind of wrestling do you play? God.
Red rum.
But yeah, Toonami's got what got me into anime, so I really hope that it does the same for other people. If other people get into anime just by watching this new Toonami, then it pretty much accomplished what it set out to do before.
And apparently when they showed it on April Fool's Day, it was still the standard def, anamorphic version of Toonami. So hopefully they made those widescreen HD.
Don't care. Good enough.
Yeah, we'll take what we can get, I suppose. All right, so before we get into our main anime discussions for this week, we have an email. This was sent to me by my sister, who has been on a couple of the other podcasts. This was actually right after we recorded last time for episode 7, which was right when episode 6, our first discussion about Korra, when that went on iTunes. And so she was talking about that podcast. And so she said, okay, so I'm listening to episode 6 as we speak, and I feel the need to point out that you guys are being way too harsh on Korra, along with a lot of other things. She basically goes on to say that it's a pretty long email, but she says that she's being rebellious because she's an independent teenage girl. She's got a lot of flaws, but at least it's realistic. And she's determined. She has a sense of justice. She, kicks butt, all that stuff. She heavily anticipates seeing what will trigger her avatar state. And she doubts some of our theories about such as Amon being a bender. And she also accuses us of not mentioning the music, which I'm pretty sure we did. I talked about how it was like Baccano, that jazzy 1920s feel.
Yeah.
And she says, too, back up to the topic of Korra, she's probably going to have a lot of character development in a very good direction. I'm very interested to see how. Great job on Castle of Cagliostro, but compared to the Korra discussion, I honestly couldn't care less. As you can see, I'm very passionate about Korra, so I hope you help voice my opinion soon. Sorry if it sounds like I'm ranting. So that's from Olivia.
Well, Olivia, Alex's little sister, I have to disagree with you. I still think that my opinion of Korra has improved a little bit, but for the most part, that line about her being a independent teenage girl means nothing. Do you know what an independent teenage girl is? A teenager. Woohoo.
Yeah, no, I get it. Personally, I think we had some very legitimate concerns, I should say, about Korra's character, especially from that second episode where she was quite whiny. I think she's improved quite a bit, as far as us seeing her be scared and some depth to her character.
Your sister must have agreed with me a lot, because I was a minority last time where I was like, I think Korra's pretty okay. And you guys were like, no, Korra sucks. And I'm like, whoa, guys, too harsh.
Now, don't get me wrong. Episode 5 has kind of made me start to dislike Korra again.
Yeah. Well, actually, we can transition right into that now because we're going to talk about the anime that we've watched since last time, or animation that we've watched since last show, and we're going to put Korra into this discussion before we get to our main topic, Fooly Cooly. And just a warning to all of you listeners out there will be spoilers for both The Legend of Korra and for Fooly Cooly, so be aware of that.
Although Fooly Cooly is almost, 10 years old now?
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I think we're okay.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it already, go watch it now.
Yeah, it's 6 episodes. It's not even, it's closer to around 2.5 hours.
So if you haven't seen Fooly Cooly, you need to pause this podcast, go watch it, come back, and unpause it. And there you go.
So, yes, Jeremy, so what did you think of episode 5?
Episode 5, I did not like.
Really?
I didn't like it all that much. First off, it spent pretty much the whole episode beating up on my favorite character.
Well, admittedly, Bolin had moments where he was like, everything was going good for him, and then he just gets torn down. You're right.
Exactly. It's like, okay, come on. Do you guys really have to make... I'm really starting to dislike Mako, not so much for his character, but because everything good seems to happen to Mako.
Yeah.
It's like, come on.
No,
really?
I agree with that. And also, I mean, the thing about the relationship as far as like, everything's going great with Bolin. And then Korra was dumb and was like, oh, but Mako still likes me. And then she kisses him. Like that. The thing with that is that's most high school-ish relationships.
Mark, most high school relationships aren't soap operas. I'm just going to say that right now.
No. Okay, well, then my high school was different because a lot of them were very like
was
just
your
dumb.
high school telecasted on Telemundo?
No, but it was no. But like what I mean by that is that it's not like, oh, this person's like this person, like not like a soap opera, but like just people being dumb in their relationship and doing stupid things where like, like now you look back on, you're like, wow, what were they like?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
No, I agree with you, but I think what really bothers me here is Marco is turning into Kelso from that 70s show.
Oh, what just because he gets all the girls or what?
No, not even because of that. He's essentially with 2 girls right now at the same time. He's kind of
Well, technically not, because he's not doing anything with
Korra. Okay, fine, but you know what I mean.
I get it. Yeah,
It's kind of like
he knows the option is there, which is dumb because technically the moment that he breaks up with what's her face, he could just go to Korra, and then Bolin's just sitting there like,
I don't have
Okay.
anybody.
okay.
Yeah.
Bolin better have a girlfriend, like just not even. How about this? If it's by the end of the series, I'll still be mad. If it's like halfway through the series, I'll be happy.
Well,
Bolin just needs someone.
You know what? And Bolin has showed so far that he's pretty awesome. In that one-on-one match, that was probably was the highlight of episode 5.
That was the thing I really liked, because we saw Korra, do some pretty awesome bending, and we saw Mako do some pretty awesome bending, but we hadn't really seen Bolin do it until episode 5 in that one-on-one match, and he was pretty awesome in that.
And it clearly shows that Bolin is easily the most awesome of the three, because unlike Korra, who she's the Avatar, of course she has an advantage over everyone else just because of that, and Mako, who he can shoot lightning bolts. Bolin, everything he does, you can tell he's definitely really well trained, and he's a lot bigger than everyone else too, so he's not nearly as spry, I guess is the right word.
Mm-hmm.
So
He's not as agile.
yeah. So instead, he's just awesome. He just makes up for it by being awesome.
Exactly. Well,
His personality is probably one of my favorites, just because he's the most
genuine.
genuine, normal, and just likable.
Oh yeah, he's definitely the likable character. Kind of like a bit like Sokka, like we've said in the past in the original show. Like Jeremy said, Sokka was pretty unlikable at first, but as the series went on, he
became the everyman.
Exactly, and that's sort of what Mako is.
The problem with
Bolin.
Sokka,
Bolin.
Mako is turning into Edward Cullen.
the problem with Sokka. Sokka. The problem with and also don't ever compare
Mako.
any character in
Twilight.
Okay. I retract that statement. I apologize.
I think Mako had more personality in that first episode than
Edward.
Edward did an entire series. Anyways,
Here comes the fangirl hate. I can feel it.
It hurts. It hurts. Oh gosh,
talking-
that whole rant just made me
You
forget.
were talking about Sokka. Something about
Oh,
Sokka.
Sokka. One of the reasons why he's less likable, in my opinion, than Bolin is Sokka was actually my favorite, but a lot of people say they don't like him is because of his biting sarcasm. Because sometimes he's just bitter. Like
I love that. That was the reason I loved
No,
him.
I like that too, but other people don't like that because everyone else is like, "Hey, here's a plan," and Sokka's like, "Oh, well, here's this. Your plan's stupid," and then he goes on to whatever.
Yeah, well, he was the most pragmatic and sort of realistic thinking of the bunch.
Exactly.
That's because he's the only one who didn't have Kung Fu Jesus powers.
Exactly.
Just point that out there.
Yeah. He all anything he did, he had to like think with his mind.
And he also he can only do things that were physically possible, as opposed to everyone else who was again Crystal Kung Fu Jesus.
Right. For me, with episode 5, I quite enjoyed it because obviously very romance-centric episode. They really threw a lot of it into the single episode and then haven't touched on it as much in some of the other episodes. But I think they did a good job of balancing the romance with the pro bending matches, and you sort of see how the relationships affect their pro bending as time goes on and things.
Another thing I'm going to say this now, right about this also leads into episode 6. But did they really have to make the champion, the reigning champion, so vile,
Cartoonishly evil?
Yeah. I'm a pretty boy and I'm clearly evil. Bags.
Okay, wait.
Bags.
just to start going into episode 6, my favorite line in that I watched it multiple times. I couldn't stop
Was
laughing.
it the I can howl too line?
No, that was funny. But no, it's where it's when he wins the
championship.
Yeah, what is the champ's name? I don't even know.
No one knows. Generic pretty boy villain.
Okay,
who
yeah,
ends up getting beaten by the better villain.
Yeah, he has a name, but we don't know. Anyways,
Who cares?
but he wins and he goes, "Who else wants to mess with who else wants to scrap with the champs?" And like the way he says it like that, and the funniest part is that when you look at his mouth when he says it, he says champs like he like really pronounces it. He's like, "Who wants to scrap with the champs?" Oh gosh, just go back and rewatch that part.
I'll have to rewatch
and it's
that.
really funny.
Because I did not notice that
See,
line.
I think what really bothered me though about that episode was, oh, they clearly had to cheat to win. Oh, come on, couldn't they be a comp? I mean, I know it makes Amon's entrance look even more awesome later, but
No, I don't think they needed to cheat. It's just that they're
Well, the thing I thought was interesting because I honestly sort of expected like, oh, of course, our heroes make it to the finals. Of course they're going to win, but they don't. But the way that they get around that is by making the other team cheat, basically.
And it just feels kind of overplayed.
No, the thing is that this is my theory just because this would make Amon even better. And we'll probably never find out, but I like this theory the most. What if it wasn't that team that paid off the referee to cheat? And it was Amon that paid the referee.
See, that was actually my first thought about
Yeah.
it, and you're probably right. The whole thing is the reason they got away with the cheating is because it's not probably Amon who told them, but somebody told them that they were going to win regardless of what the other team did. Mm-hmm. I think that's really the only part of episode 6 that really bothered me because once Amon showed up, awesome.
because
Pretty much.
Amon didn't want. He must not have wanted Korra to win because then he'd have to take away her bending right away, and he's waiting. He's saving.
No.
wouldn't
Here's the
have
other
to.
And here's the other thing though
Well,
too. Amon was
according to
clearly
his plan.
Amon was clearly planning that monologue for some time.
Yeah.
Do you know how hard it would be for him to make up a new
You think
one on the fly?
I think he was underneath the stage like, okay, I'm rehearsing my speech.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm imagining.
That's why I said have to, because the way I see Amon's plan working is that basically he has a big chalkboard and he's like, okay, step 1.
He's like John Madden.
Yeah, watch the pro bending match. Step 2, crown the champs. Step 3,
Zap everyone.
Yeah, take champs bending away. Bada bing, bada boom, you're done. And if Korra won, he would have been like, well,
This doesn't work.
I can't take her bending away.
Well, I
but-
mean, I could take it away, but that wouldn't help me.
Yeah.
I thought
Instead, I'll just make some generic villains look really good, and then I'll take their bending away because clearly they cheated.
Yeah.
Exactly. I thought it was interesting that obviously we know that he wasn't going to take away Korra's bending, but he didn't take away Mako's or Bolin's either, even though Bolin was the guy he was about to do it to and he escaped. You think he might, like have it out for him or something, but they don't do anything with him. They just sort of lock him away in that basement area.
But remember though, if you're Amon, you don't need to remember every little peon that you deal with.
No, it's true. And I thought this was interesting because I mentioned this to you, Mark, after I watched the episode the next day, because I've been rewatching our Tech Heads podcast, and in the last episode you said, oh, I hope that Korra and Mako and Bolin and the gang actually win against the Equalists and prove that they can, fight back against them. And instead the Equalists completely destroyed everybody.
Again.
But I was really surprised though, because actually somewhat of what I wanted to happen did happen, because Korra fought back on the roof and she actually kicked some ass. Like, I was really surprised.
Yeah, that in my opinion, the fight scene on the roof and in the last 4 minutes of the episode, that's like the best fighting we've seen so far on the show.
I don't know about anyone else, but I know I've mentioned this before, but that whole fight scene, I was enjoying it, but every once in a while I go, yep, that guy's dead. He's not he just fell 200 feet. He's dead. He just, yep, that guy's dead too, right through the glass.
But wait,
yep, dead.
But wait, that guy fell to the water.
No.
Nope, doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Nope.
You ever hit the water from 200 feet? The surface tension will kill you.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's
No,
dead.
but I'm saying that's what their response would
Well-
be like. Oh, he hit the water. He's okay. No.
Personally, I don't see, I mentioned in this before, how Korra firebends the second in command guy off the roof at the end. It's certainly, I don't think he's going to be dead because that would be kind of dark, for a kid's show. But I feel like he's going to be at least severely injured next time we see him.
The way I see it is that he probably fell off the roof or whatever, and then he used one of his swords or something to stab into the building.
Actually, what I'm really kind of hoping for, it's a little on the dark side, but I think it would really help with the show. He's not dead, but he's crippled now, and they capture him.
That would be interesting.
I know. That's what I was thinking. I thought they were going to capture him. And when they didn't show them, capturing him, I was like...
Maybe they'll do it at the beginning of the next episode, though, because, it was kind of a full episode.
You're right.
Although
yeah.
that whole scene when we find out that... oh, God, I can't remember her name.
Lin?
Lin Beifong.
Beifong and Tenzin used to be a couple. First off, my first thought was, well, wait a minute. She looks like she's in her 60s, and he's maybe late 30s, oldest.
No,
I don't know about that.
No, it's the whole reason I think that, though, is let's look at Tenzin's wife to start with.
Oh yeah,
And that, first off, she's still having children, which that alone, that shows that she's still
also,
relatively young.
I don't think Beifong looks that old. I mean,
It's the gray hair.
yeah.
I think it's,
I think she grayed early or something.
exactly, which is pretty normal.
Not to mention it's the crow's feet, too. That just, the wrinkles.
Plus, I think Tenzin's probably close to 40 because he's got a kid that's 10 years old.
and
But remember, though, that's not
Yeah,
necessarily
that's not necessarily true.
And also,
but-
Lin Beifong,
She's seen some stuff, man.
yeah, well, yeah, she's always like frowning. I don't know if you know, but like that can change how you age, just your demeanor. You know.
Yeah, to give you more wrinkles or something.
Exactly.
Although I will say, you said the champ's line at the very end was your favorite part of the episode. For
Yeah.
me, it was
Just
the dialogue,
humor wise.
Yeah, for me, the funniest part of the episode was the dialogue between Korra and Tenzin talking about Lin. I thought that was hilarious.
Pretty much any scene with Tenzin's, I hate to plow on this, how Tenzin's my other favorite character in the show, but pretty much any scene with Tenzin's going to be a good one. That whole scene where he and Beifong are talking to each other. I'll try to be less abrasive. Yes, please. I couldn't stop laughing when I saw that. It's like, wow, that was great. And it was really brave.
Yeah, there was some great writing in this episode.
Yeah,
for sure.
Beifong has become one of my more favorite characters.
Yeah, well, seeing her, like, on the one hand, the metal bending that she did was pretty awesome, with all the metal ropes and things. But at the same time, I wish we could see the metal benders do stuff like we saw Toph do. Because right now they've just been using their little metal ropes, to do stuff. And that's cool and all. But I want to see them, like, do some crazy metal bending stuff like Toph did in the finale.
The thing, maybe they suck. No. Hear me out.
No, yeah, Toph is a prodigy.
Yeah. And here's the other thing, though, too. So far, the average metal bender is a faceless little goon. So the majority of them probably suck.
Yeah, well, but you expect Lin to be pretty proficient at it since she's the captain.
Maybe. Or maybe she just sucks slightly less.
Yep, it's true.
I mean, don't get me wrong. She probably is good. But, it'd be kind of funny if we found out that was the case.
Okay. One thing I wanted to talk about, because we mentioned this in the previous episode, was this whole idea, is Tarlok Amon? And what I thought was interesting is in that opening scene at the Hall Council meeting, Tarlok is voting to close down the bending arena and agree with Tenzin, and then Lin comes in and breaks the thing, and he changes his mind. Yes, Jeremy?
Now, you see, I originally was like, well, maybe he's not a mom, but then I thought of something. Tarlok didn't seem even slightly surprised when he saw Beifong there. Now, did he?
No, I would disagree, because she comes in, shoots her little thing, breaks his hammer, and he sort of gasps.
Yeah, I gasped at that a little bit too if I saw a piece of metal come flying at me. But he didn't seem really all that surprised.
But if he had if he had planned it, then I don't think he would have looked surprised. But number two, that would seem to suggest that Tarlok is like manipulating
everyone
or working with.
He's a chess master.
Maybe.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that he's working with Lin. Maybe all that means is just that he knows how to play Lin. Because because think about it, if they were even considering closing down the arena because of a security threat, how do you think that looks to Lin?
True. Okay, you make a good point there, but I think the biggest hole in the whole Tarlok Amon thing is that immediately after that meeting gets done, we cut to Amon at that loading truck area, and we see a second man come in and say, "Oh, the High Council has voted to, continue with the pro bending match." He's like, "All according to plan."
Yes, but
I
here's
hate
the thing.
that line. I'm sorry. I hate that line. It's
cliche.
If you want to talk about
Stop stealing from George Lucas.
As cool as all the characters are, and there's not many cliches in the series thus far,
except for the romance in episode 3.
Well, yeah, obviously, but oh my God, there's no more cliche line than "It's all according to plan."
Yeah.
No, but here's the thing, though. They don't tell you how much time lapsed in between that cut. So
That's
it could, for all we know, could have been 5 seconds, could have been 5 hours.
I want to say that Tarlok is Amon just because it sounds awesome.
But wait. Last episode, pretty much everyone agreed that it would be kind of sucky if Tarlok was
Yeah,
Amon.
no.
I think it'd be awesome.
Now, here's the thing, though. It's really obvious, but we're starting to see though that even if he is Amon, he's a really manipulative. Remind me, what words can I get away with again?
Yeah, just manipulative guy. Dude.
He's also a magnificent one, if that's also the case.
I know what you want to say. Oh, dear.
And I don't know. I mean,
I didn't say it, so you
I know.
can't get
Nope.
mad.
I'm not mad.
It would be difficult for like if he was Amon, because I don't know, like you can see Amon's eyes and they're like completely different than Tarlok's.
No, I said that earlier as well, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Exactly. So I don't know exactly what I'm hoping. The only reason why I kind of think it would be Tarlok is because it'd be kind of cool. Like he's like the manipulative, you know.
But
But then again, I'd just be thinking, oh god, it's Emperor Palpatine all over again.
that's the thing. But if it is Tarlok and he is Amon, okay, so Tarlok's the one who's like, okay, let's change the plans. We are going to do this and we're going to protect it and everything. And then Amon shows up and blows the whole thing up. And he's the one who suggested that plan in the first place. So the blame's going to fall quite a bit on him.
No, it's not.
Do you think it's going to fall on Lin?
It's on.
It's got to fall. Remember? Don't you
even
remember that
made
whole
sure.
line that he even said before when Lin walked in? And this is why I just started going, ugh. It's like, dude, no. He said, and I quote, "So you would allow all of the blame to fall on you if anything went wrong."
That's exactly what he said, and Lin was like,
You're right.
"Yeah, definitely." And then Tenzin was like, "No, what are you doing? He's playing you."
Yeah.
Again, really, I think Tenzin's the only one with a brain. I love Bolin, but I think Tenzin might be the only person with a brain in the show aside from Amon.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is true. It's a good argument. I'm starting to think that if
Tenzin is Amon.
Hey, we've already got enough epileptic trees in this.
Yeah, well, we know that's not possible.
I know.
But I know.
Hey, well,
Clearly, Tenzin is he's too awesome to be Amon.
okay. The only reason he's not Amon is because otherwise the beard would stick out of his mask.
And
so-
not to mention, it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah,
I know, I'm
and
just
that
kidding.
Tenzin was in the stadium when Amon showed up.
Hey,
he got
doppelgangers, twin evil brother.
Okay, now we're getting to crazy
Okay, yeah,
areas.
epileptic trees, bro.
But
I don't think it's Boomy.
something I've sort of thought of is maybe it's not. Well, that would be really interesting if it was a movie.
Yeah, we haven't seen the other kids yet.
He lived forever.
Not
No.
that Boomy. Remember, Avatar Aang had 3 kids, and one of them was named Boomy.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're right.
and he's a non-bender too.
I want to see the other kids.
Yeah, I'd like to see him too. But what I was going to say is that my personal theory is if Tarlok is not Amon, which I sort of suspect at this point, but I think it is perhaps more likely that he's like working with the Equalists in some way, because he's obviously he has these ulterior motives. He wants power, so maybe he's going to try and use his control in the government to get the Equalists into power, and then hopefully Amon gives him some sort of power position, and then Amon backstabs him probably. And
You do
something
know
like
he was
that.
fighting against the Equalists. Like, remember that whole special ops thing where they captured the
Well,
Equalists?
yes.
But they don't ever show Amon during any of that, so...
Well, yeah,
No, but then why would Tarlok do that?
if
because it grows whatever suspicion might be on him off of him, and honestly,
But Amon would probably not like that.
so
Well, it's
about-
it's a chess game. If he's Amon, he's sacrificing the pawns. These learning
To take
chi
the
blockers.
queen.
No, I was going off the prediction that he's working with Amon.
Well, if that's the case, then it's the same thing. He's furthering Amon's goals by doing that. By
and you think Amon doesn't care about his lesser minion?
Yeah.
well, Amon would have commanded him to do that.
think about it though, Mark. What's more important, that he loses a few minions, or that he instills the fear of God into the Avatar?
yeah, it's better.
Pretty much. Yeah. And what did you guys think of the whole thing? Where like, okay, so now not only can the Equalists do chi blocking stuff, but now they have lightning gloves.
I'm actually a little bit annoyed with that one. It's like, okay, right. Can we get a little more logical progression of technology going on here? Now, I understand it's a fantasy world, and that's fine. That the whole reason the lightning sticks didn't bother me as much because they actually showed the guy has a backpack on.
Oh,
that's
yeah, I didn't
powering
think of
it.
that.
I don't see one of those on the gloves.
Yeah, well, the guy picked the glove out of the popcorn bag.
That's another thing that annoyed me.
Yeah. I don't know. That was something that kind of annoyed me too. Like they have so many metal benders around here protecting the place, but they didn't search anybody as they were coming into the place.
Are I don't know. Are the benders that like I don't understand why benders are that hated? Because yes, we've seen some benders do bad things, but I don't know why benders are so hated that like you see quite a few of the crowd members are the chi blockers and they're the equalists, and they take out the electro glove and start electrocuting people. And it's like, dang, like
but here's the thing though, they were only electrocuting the metal bender guards, and they were electrocuting the important people. I think the whole reason though they ended up electrocuting the announcer was just so he'd shut up.
Yeah. Well, and
like
what was
the
interesting,
announcer.
I love him too, but
it was. I think that was a smart thing because they weren't like electrocuting the random people, but they were having them like block them basically from doing anything. So it's like if you try anything funny,
I'll
we're gonna
zap you.
Yeah, pretty much. But once again, smart stuff, and I think we're gonna see some of that, like some sort of thing, like maybe the non-bending slums or something like that, where these people who have been oppressed by benders live, in some desolate part of the city or something like that.
See, but here's the other thing though. I'm sorry, Mark.
sorry.
So far, what are the only jobs that we've seen non-benders have? Honestly, shops. So far, we've only seen them serving. We haven't seen really any non-benders in any sort of position of power.
Then again, not many. Sorry, Alex. Not many benders also have like really high. For example, Mako working in the electric plant. Like that doesn't seem like a very fun or
not fun. But think about it though. He even mentioned that he gets paid quite a bit doing it.
Yeah. No, sorry, I didn't mean fun, but I mean like.
Glamorous.
It doesn't seem like a very glamorous job. Like, yeah, you can say it pays quite a bit, but that doesn't mean it's a good job.
Yeah, but here's the other thing though too. You got to remember about the shopkeepers. They're not even allowed to defend themselves.
Right. Well, you're supposed to rely on the metal benders to come save you, sort of thing.
I'm going to say this, and I'm probably going to get some flack. They've seemed pretty incompetent so far. They look really cool, but they've seemed pretty incompetent so far.
That's what's interesting because in our first podcast about Korra, you were like the metal benders are the coolest characters in the show.
No. I still stand by the fact they have a really cool design, but as the show has gone on, they are obviously incompetent.
I mean, yeah,
completely and utterly incompetent.
They couldn't catch Korra, which is pretty funny.
It's not that they couldn't just catch Korra. They couldn't catch Korra when they had a blimp.
Well, no, they did catch her.
They did catch her, but it took her. She beat how many of them before they caught her?
Like five.
Five, yeah.
Yeah. And okay, the two other things to talk about real quick, and then we'll move on because it's already been half an hour. But we'd be remiss to not talk about the flashes that we saw, because once again, Korra goes unconscious, and we see a flash of Aang with Toph, some old guy in front of Aang, and then Aang in the avatar state in front of someone. Those are like the three images we saw. And my personal opinion is that this old guy that we saw is probably this Yakone guy that Aang had to stop 42 years ago or whatever it was. What do you guys think?
I mean,
you're probably right.
Most obvious,
but right now we really can't. It's obviously it's foreshadowing something, but we can't really do anything with it right now because there's no audio. There's nothing that they're really talking about.
Right.
So,
yeah. I don't know. I'm just looking forward to, because obviously they're going to show that at some point. When they do, it's going to be pretty cool, because seeing Aang go avatar state on somebody, when he's like a fully matured avatar, is going to be pretty awesome. Mm-hmm. And then one thing that sort of got to me was interesting was at the end of the episode, we see the Equalists, as they leave in their blimp thingy, and all of the boats and the blimps and all the metal benders that were around the arena have been completely destroyed. So that makes me think either A, the Equalists are a lot more numerous and powerful than we thought they were, or B, perhaps they had some people like infiltrating the metal benders.
See, I'm going to go with option C and just say, since, they seem to have an obsession with lightning, I'm going to say they had lightning guns on their blimp.
So they just shot lightning bolts out of the sky and blew them up.
You know what? No, why not? Because you know what? It's getting almost silly with their obsession with lightning. Let's be honest. It's getting kind of silly. It's cool, but it's a little silly at this point.
I really want to see. I really want to see Mako, like someone try and shock Mako, and he just takes the lightning and just kind of shocks them back or something.
See, he can't do that. Only one person, like in the original Avatar series, could do that.
Yeah, but hold on, but we saw that bending lightning was actually pretty normal now.
Yeah, that was just sort of something I thought was interesting because we've seen Mako do it, and we've seen other people do it, at that factory and things, but we've never seen Korra do it, even though she's supposed to be a master firebender. And it seems kind of strange because she uses firebending a lot, like more than any other element.
Well, I think the reason for that specifically, for example, like on the roof when she only used firebending, I realized she only used firebending because there was no water other than the water like
Way down
below, and there was no earth. So she could only
I get that.
Yeah, but
She definitely seems to prefer firebending.
But just because because technically, I don't think we saw at the beginning of the series, she just finished her firebending training. That doesn't mean that she's mastered it.
Well, true, but that's the idea of like the original show. Like Aang has to go master all 4 elements, so you master the one before you continue on to the next.
How many times did Aang use lightning?
Well, that's the thing. He didn't. That's my point. In the original show, lightning was a special thing. Only 3 people had it. But in this show, we've seen multiple people use it, so it seems more common. So I'm wondering why the Avatar, supposed to be this great bender, can't do it while Mako can.
I think it's because she literally just finished her firebending training, and lightning is probably slightly more advanced, but it's probably not like super hard like it was before, where only like 3 people know how to do it.
See, this is something though about pro bending now. Why is it that it seems like, I understand like the rules about like no headshots, no rocks, no rocks in the water, stuff like that. But it almost seems like it's almost too restrictive with some of those rules. Oh, no ice allowed. Well, okay, I can understand it to a certain extent, but
well, because then it would because then immediately, do you know how the match would start off? Each side would just
lightning, fire, and whatever the special thing earthbenders can do.
Yeah.
This episode did answer a question for me because I've always thought, okay, why doesn't Korra just like take a giant little mini tidal wave of water from behind her thing and just throw it at them and like totally wipe out all 3 at once? But it seems like there's a limit on like the amount of water that you can use. That was like a rule.
Yeah.
I don't mind that as much now. I'm gonna take back exactly what I just said a few minutes ago because I wasn't thinking when I said it. I think the rules they sound a little restrictive, but honestly, I think it explains the game a little bit better, so it doesn't seem quite as arbitrary.
Yeah. Although I was surprised when Korra won against the champ in that one match.
I'm not even slightly surprised because so far they were showing he was pretty incompetent.
No, I'm not surprised that she won. I was surprised that she won because of the headshot. Remember, she hits him under the chin with the water and it knocks him back? Isn't that a headshot?
Not technically.
Or is it because it's from the chin?
That's an uppercut. That's
okay,
different.
Is it different? Okay.
I would argue that it's different for a few reasons, though. The whole reason that headshots went okay is because they weren't throwing water at people. Remember that.
Yeah,
They
that's
were
true.
shooting like rocks at
They were shooting rocks and fireballs. That's a little different.
Yeah, that is
I'm pretty sure those helmets would be okay against
Water.
like a fire hose. But if you're throwing rocks at like 50 miles an hour or fireballs,
Yeah. So my conclusion is that I loved both of these episodes. Personally, with me, like kind of like Mark said in the previous episode, like I love seeing Amon and the Equalists, and they're scary and they're a strong villain and they're obviously a big challenge. And it really does feel like Tenzin said at the end, like this is a war sort of brewing now, like this is serious. But it does seem like the Equalists are almost overpowered at this point. Like we've with the exception of the fight on the roof, we haven't seen like any of our heroes do anything effective against them at all.
see that's the whole thing though. They're a credible villain. That's some honestly what. Go ahead and rewatch some of the earlier episodes of Avatar. You have a hard time honestly understanding why the Fire Nation is considered so dangerous and how they're beating everyone because
They're incompetent.
they're pretty incompetent. And I'm not even talking about this from an 11-year-old kid and his 12-year-old and 14-year-old friend are all escaping them on a flying bison the size of a hut. No, that's not what bothered me. It's the fact that they have, let's be completely honest, the only reason that the Fire Nation ever seems to win anything is because everyone else is even more incompetent than they are.
Yes, well, I think it was you that said that the Water Nation was the most incompetent nation ever created.
Oh, yeah. Let's not get back into that argument. That still grinds my gears.
But yeah, I sort of see it like something like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, sort of, where like there's a point in the series where the villains seem like so powerful, like how can the heroes possibly stand against them? But then they sort of come up with this plan and build together their forces and then go and take the fight to them. And I have a feeling that's sort of what's going to happen in this show as well.
But
Yeah,
the
I
one
hope
thing
something like
the one thing I always remember of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is that remember
It's amazing.
Oh, aside from that, apparently Mustang could have done the whole thing by himself because he explodes. How many homunculus again?
Well, he kills 2 of them.
He explodes. Was it Envy?
Envy,
Yeah, Envy.
and Lust.
Yeah, he explodes them. He could have done the whole show should have just been Mustang, Mr. Awesome Brotherhood.
Spoilers on Brotherhood.
Yeah, sorry
but
about that.
It's okay, but yeah. Anyways, how about this? Just sorry for those name drops, but anyways, Mustang is awesome and he kills people.
Well, admittedly, it is kind of true because he comes into that, where they're fighting like all the zombie homunculi and not Aang. Jeez.
I did it. I
I'm
win.
so confused. Ed and everyone else is like fighting these guys and they're like too numerous. How are we going to fight them off? And then Mustang shows up and just creates a huge fireball that kills all of them at once.
And it's like, why is anyone else in this show again? I'm pretty sure seriously, I wouldn't mind if he and Armstrong were the entire the Mustang and Armstrong show.
hey.
I would pay money to watch that.
Mustang, Armstrong, and Hughes.
I'm not as big a fan of Hughes.
Hughes was my favorite.
No, Mustang and Armstrong. Male Armstrong, not female Armstrong.
Yeah, all of female Armstrong is still pretty awesome.
She's awesome,
Yeah.
but male Armstrong is just
The
hilarious.
thing is, I think those characters work so great because they are side characters. If they were main characters, then we'd have to go into depth about like, what's Mustang's, downfalls, and you really have to get into his mind as a protagonist.
They did.
And no, I'm not saying that they don't, because they do, but you get my point. They work well as side characters, maybe not so well as main characters.
I find that my favorite, just overall in any like kind of anime or series, side characters. Bless you. Side characters are always my favorite. Just
Yeah.
it's real. Like for example, I don't like Naruto very much, but I just don't like Naruto as a character. But I love.
I sound like I smoked a pack of cigarettes.
But I like
Owing.
Lee.
Rock Lee.
Rock Lee is by far when I was about to say Chun Li. I don't even know who that is. Choji.
You like Choji?
He's
really?
awesome. Yeah.
Oh.
No, because in the beginning he's just like, oh, I'm a fatty who likes chips. But then like later in the series when he actually like gets serious and fights people, he's awesome.
Yeah.
And also, it's really funny because he's like, oh no, I can't do it, guys. Like, I'm gonna die here. And then someone else is like, hey, if you keep going, I'll take you to like an all-you-can-eat barbecue. And he's like, whoa, guys, I'm okay now. It's just like comic relief characters like that who can become awesome.
Awesome.
Be like Bolin.
Yeah, like Bolin. I want to see a time where like
I want to see a whole episode just dedicated to Bolin.
Bolin's been beat up and picked on over and over and over. And
He's not going to take it anymore.
Yeah, and finally, just one episode, he
snaps.
just kicks ass. Like, I want to see that.
See, I kind of just want to I just kind of want to see Bolin just snap. I'm tired of this crap. I'm kicking everyone's ass.
That would be kind of cool to see.
That would.
So after our little Naruto and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood sidetracks, yeah, we're going to get on to the main discussion for this week, which is the anime Fooly Cooly.
Furry curry.
Yes.
I actually looked that up, and I was like, wait, it's called Furry Curry? Like, I'm so confused.
Yeah, no, that's because Japanese, they don't have L's, right? Isn't
Yeah.
that how it
Yeah.
works?
It's funny because it's a little racist.
Although it's weird, though, because in One Piece, everyone obviously calls him Luffy.
But if you look at other dubs, they call him Rufy. Like I think in German, it's
yeah,
Rufy.
but I don't get it. Why?
Funny because it's German racist.
but I don't get it because if it's in Japanese, why would they call him Luffy? Like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
If any of our listeners know the intricacies of the Japanese language, send us an email. Let us
Go
know.
for it.
But no, Fooly Cooly is a show created by Gainax and Studio Production IG, I believe, are the two main studios behind it. I want to say it's 2000 or 2001 that the show was released. But it's a very crazy show, and once again, we're going to be spoiling it. So if you don't want to hear, you have to skip. So, yes, I'm going to explain real quick my exposure to the show because I took this anime class in the fall quarter here at Ohio University, and we watched a whole bunch of anime that I hadn't seen before, like Satoshi Kon's stuff that I really love. And then Fooly Cooly was one. It was like the first time I watched it, I was just like, okay, I'm just experiencing the series because I'd heard about it and it was super crazy and I enjoyed it, but I wasn't like thinking, oh, this is like one of my favorite shows. And then in that class, we had to write a paper on one of the anime in the class. So I chose, okay, I'll do one on Fooly Cooly. So I rewatched the whole show again, sort of analyzing it more, and I looked up all this research on it and sort of dissected it and found out about all this, like all the depth and the themes and meaning beneath everything that goes on in the show. And that made me appreciate it a lot more. And then this third time I watched it, when we watched it in Jeremy's room, I just appreciated a lot more for like the visuals, because the animation is just gorgeous throughout the show. You know, it's always crazy and changing, and it seems like you could take like almost any single frame from the entire show and like put it up on a wall and it'd look really cool. Like the way the composition and the colors and everything, just great. So what were your guys' first impressions of the show?
Well, after 58 seconds of that little intro,
I could get a little wordy.
I thought it was pretty good. I'm not going to talk nearly as much about it, but I was just really surprised because when I saw the first episode, I was just like, I don't really like this because Gurren Lagann, I'm going to compare it to Gurren Lagann because they're both like really insane, crazy shows. Gurren Lagann was crazy because the rule in that universe was really obvious. It's the rule of cool. Like, whatever's really cool and awesome, and like whoever has the most fighting spirit will win. Whereas in Fooly Cooly, you get hit with the guitar in the head, and a bump comes out of your forehead, and then robots come out, and it's stuff like that. Now, that doesn't make it a bad anime. It's just like that from the get-go confused me so much, and that really turned me off to the series. But then I started watching, and I watched that other episode with you guys in Jeremy's room, and I was like, it's a lot more interesting, and you can get a lot more into it when you actually know what it's about, when you learn that it's about a coming-of-age story.
Right. Jeremy?
I'm personally not a big fan of Fooly Cooly.
Yep.
Now, one of the things that really turns me off is, as Mark said, it's really random. Now, don't get me wrong. It's got really good production values. It's obviously they took a lot of time making the show, but it's too random for me. There's a lot of references in there. When you compare the sub to the dub, which is actually what we did at the same time.
Right.
Well, I'm honestly, I'm really kind of glad that they went in the direction that they did with the dub version. That doesn't mean the sub version is bad. It just means that the dub makes references that we in America would get.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's a show that I would say like really quantifies a lot of the things I associate with anime. So it's like something that's got almost all of the things, you know, that anime is known for and the things I like about anime. Yet at the same time, it's never a show. I would never recommend this as like a first show for someone who's never seen anime to watch, because they'd just be scared by the randomness.
Yeah. This is one of the earlier animes that I watched. I still am not a big fan of it. I don't know what it is about it. It just kind of turns me off to just watching anything.
Is it because the main theme of it is sex?
Even beyond that, I know it's puberty, and oh god, there's so many fallacies.
Yeah,
but beyond that, beyond this being Freud's wet dream.
The thing that
you're gonna have to censor that.
The thing that blew my mind when I first saw the series, it's what was it? Sorry, I'm blanking because I saw you looking at the computer screen. The thing that blew my mind was whenever he got, God, it's gonna be so hard. Like, this is really difficult to talk about because this is about sex. It's whenever he got sexually like aroused, like the pimple would like grow on his head and like the stuff would pop out or something like that. And he was embarrassed about it, so he would like wrap it with like a bandage or put a hat over it. So like it's not just showing he was embarrassed about the pimple, but like he's embarrassed about like sexual arousal or whatever.
Yeah, well,
like
it's-
that kind of thing of like the puberty in general.
It's the whole puberty thing. Like in episode 5, when that's the episode where he's got the gun hammer on the back of his head, and like it pushes him up and forces him to kiss Haruko. When he's in the bed, and it pushes him up to kiss her. And then throughout that episode, like you see an image of a gun being cocked every time he like basically becomes cocky. He's so kind of overconfident. He's like, oh yeah, well, I did save the city that time. I'm pretty cool, aren't I? And then finally when he confronts Mamimi, and she basically is like, oh, you've changed, Taku, and you've grown up, and he's trying to kiss her and she won't do it, and he's confused and upset, and that's when the gun gets pulled and the robot comes out of his head. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you sort of touched on the thing that is obvious to me, because like the thing I would say to you, Jeremy, is like, obviously the show is crazy and random, and if you just take it on face value, I'm sure it's kind of like, okay, this was a ridiculous kind of fun show, and it ended after 6 episodes. It's like, okay, that was all right, let's move on. But to me, like when you analyze it as far as like the dialogue that's said and the themes and everything and all the stuff about like thinking of it basically of the whole show as a coming of age story, as this boy going through puberty, it gets a lot more meaning to me because of that.
I'm going to stop you right there for one very important reason. I had to analyze crap in English class. I'm not going to do it in my spare time. So quite frankly, if I can't enjoy something on face value, I'm going to have a hard time enjoying it. Because if I have to look for I'm lazy. I'm a lazy consumer. I will admit it. But you know what? I can appreciate intelligent works. But if you're gonna essentially throw up a bad acid trip on a TV screen, and you want me to dissect it for its deeper psychological and social meanings, I'm not going to. Because I'm a lazy consumer, and I don't want it to be hand-fed. I don't want it to be spoon-fed to me, but I don't want to have to sit there and think about every little bit of dialogue, especially when they're spewing around 50 different words per second in that show.
Yeah, well, it gets points where it's like really fast-paced and crazy.
Another thing that I was confused about that I didn't like in the first episode is a lot of the dialogue seemed random. I didn't understand why, and I finally, after reading this analysis online, I finally understand, because a lot of the dialogue is actually like a hidden kind of message for like sex. So like if you listen to some of that, if you get to a part that sounds really random and you're confused why they're saying all this stuff, close your eyes when they're talking, and you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, like that, yeah. Just go back.
So many sexual innuendos.
No, but like that's the thing, and that's why I was really confused, because I didn't like it, because why have dialogue if it's random and it doesn't make any sense? But then when you analyze it and you go into it, then it's like, oh, I see why you did this, because it's all coming of age and blah blah blah.
And in response to you, Jeremy, I completely understand what you're saying, because in that same quarter that I took this anime class, I had an experimental film class where we watched some really pretentious movies, let's put it that way, and there's all this hidden meaning and depth in them, and that, I don't know, for me at least, like that alone isn't enough. Like just saying, okay, like there was this one movie, it's literally a 45-minute movie, and it's just one slow zoom in a room, and that's like what the whole movie is, and it zooms into like a picture of water, and that's like the whole movie. It's like, okay, that I can see how that has artistic themes and depth and things, but I need more than that. And for me, like even a show like Evangelion, the
height of pretentiousness.
Yes. See, that's a show that sort of like you said, like I know there's supposed to be all this religious allegory and themes and symbolism within the show, but it doesn't pop out at me, and I'm not motivated to go look at it. And maybe that's how you feel about Fooly Cooly, and that's fine.
The difference though with Fooly Cooly is though, I know I said that when it comes right down to it, if a show is entertaining on face value, that alone is enough to get me to enjoy it. Now, again, Fooly Cooly is not my favorite, but I do enjoy it on face value. But I don't enjoy it enough to get deeper into it. I don't like Evangelion because it's not entertaining on face value. Let's be honest. It's really not. It's pretty, but it's not really all that entertaining. Because do you really want to sit down? Really, be honest. Would you rather sit down for an hour and watch 2 episodes of Gurren Lagann, or sit down for an hour and watch 30 minutes of Evangelion and then spend another 30 minutes trying to figure out what the hell just happened?
Yeah, no, you're
Gurren
right.
Lagann by far.
Yeah, but for me, like, Fooly Cooly is a show that was entertaining, and unlike Evangelion, for me at least, there was enough like hints that obviously this is a coming of age story that was like, okay, I see that this is here, but let me look at it a little deeper. You know, when I watched it that second time, I looked a little deeper and found all this other stuff. Like, there's some great quotes that the director made about the show that I have here.
Shut up, director.
Yes, the director of the show, because there's like DVD commentaries where he talks and things. This is interesting. He says, Tsuramaki has said that he tried to, quote, break the rules, quote unquote, of anime when making Fooly Cooly, for example, by choosing a contemporary Japanese band to provide the soundtrack and patterning the style more after a, quote, Japanese TV commercial or promotional video, unquote, creating a work that is short but dense packed, which is sort of true of the show in general. Like, I think it's fascinating how it, like you said, it has these moments like where the dialogue is super fast paced and things are flying by and the images are going crazy and it's like, oh my gosh, what is going on? And then it goes into these really long, slow shots or moments with no dialogue at all, you know? So it's all over the place in that regard. You know, it's got really fast paced, there's a word for it that they use in my film classes, but I forget what it is. Like perceptual density, that's it. You know, very high perceptual density with the montages and things. And then you've got these things that are very slower, and you're just sort of looking at the scenery and feeling this character development and, you know, the emotions of the characters and all that. Mm-hmm. Let's see. The thing that I don't know, the thing I find really interesting about the show is like how it uses a lot of like the imagery really matches to me with some of the symbolism and stuff, like the whole thing with the iron. You know, we see it in episode 1 as Naota is saying, you know, nothing amazing ever happens here. Everything is ordinary. And you see this giant gold iron perched over the top of their city, which is obviously like, okay, what's going on there? And obviously the iron, the medical mechanica, it spills out smoke at every time that the robots pop out of its head. And then in the last episode, gotcha. And in the last episode, he, you know, what's his name? The Commander Amuro, he talks about how the medical mechanica is this thing that organization that's going around throughout the universe and flattening people's brains, you know, making it so you can't think, taking out the wrinkles, which is obviously like the visual sort of imagery of an iron, you know, ironing out wrinkles is something you can easily imagine, but also has a lot of symbolic depth, because obviously it's sort of the idea of ironing out the wrinkles in your personality, making everybody ordinary, you know, sort of part of this society where everybody is the same and nobody's different, which is exactly what Haruko is sort of the opposite of. That's why she hates medical mechanica so much, because she is about as eccentric and crazy as you can get. So I really like those sorts of things. You know, it's subtle, or so it's sort of subtle, and it happens in the span of like 10 seconds. Like he, you know, as the hand is coming down towards the iron, he has this quick monologue about medical mechanica and how they're ironing out the wrinkles. But in that 10 seconds, there's a lot of, you know, symbolism right there for the whole show in general.
I think the problem is that Jeremy and I have seen it, and we've just taken it for what we've seen and like at face value, whereas you have actually studied the anime and like, you know,
wrote a 9-page paper on it.
Yeah, exactly. so that's really cool and all, but like that's not something that we would catch, because yes, like some people may catch that like immediately. Like obviously you can't miss the iron, but like you might miss like the more in-depth like symbolism between, you know, and like metaphors with like all the different things.
Well, I guess let's move away from the symbolism talk real quick and just talk about the sort of things about the show in general. For me personally, this is one of my favorite soundtracks in like any anime ever. It's by a contemporary Japanese rock band called The Pillows, and their soundtrack for this show, apparently it was kind of like the thing said, it was, none of the music was composed specifically for the show. They were just like, hey, can we use your music? And they paid them, you know, I'm sure, and then just took their soundtracks the music that they had done and put it in the show, and yet it matches so well.
I found the more slow parts of the anime to be kind of boring, like with at least the soundtrack. Like it was just kind of like, you know.
Yeah, just slow guitar stuff.
Exactly. But then when like the climax of each episode came and like all of the crazy stuff was going on, like that was interesting.
Right. And I think the main theme is called Little Busters. You know, that's like the song that plays near the end of pretty much every episode. Love that song.
Yeah.
And then obviously at the end of every episode, you know, you can expect a gun, or not a gun, a robot fight. And Jeremy, you pointed out that the one in the second episodes looks mysteriously like a gunman from Gurren Lagann, which is interesting because obviously Gainax would go on to do that show a couple years later.
Yeah.
But like, I love the action scenes. I love how, with the exception of that one shot of like the hand coming down the iron, that's like looks like a weird live action thing. But everything else in the whole show is like 2D animated, no 3D, and it's just amazing how they accomplish all that. Like that, there's that one shot in the 5th episode where Haruko is fighting the giant robot, you know, with all the guns. It's like the biggest robot in the whole show, and she's like jumping on the gun, and there's this long like pan shot, and it's just amazing how they accomplish that with 2D animation, you know, instead of 3D, because it must have been so time consuming to do a shot like that.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, you have to admit that at least from like a visual perspective, Fooly Cooly is pretty much top of the line.
Oh, I again remember earlier I did say I really enjoyed like the visual aspect of it. It's just that I get kind of overloaded when you watch Fooly Cooly.
Yeah, it's true. There's a lot to process.
That's my biggest problem with it.
Well,
I'm just watching and I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? Whoa, where did that person come from? What's with the eyebrows?
yeah.
Damn eyebrows.
Damn eyebrows. I think it was interesting because like the first 2 episodes in particular, and even the 3rd episode to an extent, are rather slow, you know, in comparison to the last 3, where like Amuro and some of the plot involving like the NO channel and Atomisk and, you know, all that stuff sort of comes into play in those last 3 episodes. And those ones are a lot faster paced and a lot of information is packed into those, whereas the first 3 are a little bit looser in that regard. And personally, I like the last 3 episodes better than the first 3, at least in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And also, at least for me, like the finale, like I love how it mirrors the first episode in many ways. You know, Naota's alone again and he's sort of depressed, and then Haruko comes back into his life much like in the first episode, and they have the manga thing go on, and they even make a joke about how the fact that they use the manga thing and how expensive it is. And, you know, it mirrors the first episode in many ways. And then, like, so much goes on in that 6th episode, yet it brings the whole show to fulfillment. Like, there's this one really great line, if I can find it. It's at the part where they go out and they're, you know, traveling, Haruko and Naota, and they go out and buy ramen. And it's just a simple little scene, like 30 seconds long. But once again, within that, they talk about basically what's in there is the 2 characters' philosophies for life. Where is it? It's when Haruko buys a giant bowl of cheap ramen, Naota tells her, quote, "When you act selfish like that, bad things are bound to happen, you know." To which Haruko responds, "Oh, well, I'll just have to deal with the bad things then." I think after that, she says something like, "And you know, sometimes eating bad ramen can be good for you or it can be fun," or something like that. So it's this whole idea of, you know, Haruko is, you know, going out and doing the crazy sort of things, and she's basically Naota's like immaturity and his kiddishness, and he's a kid who's trying to act like an adult. And sort of the final message of the show is kids who act like kids are more adult than kids who try to act like adults, which is sort of a strange message, but I think it holds a lot of power at the same time. Mm-hmm. And with that theme, like you see it play out in the 3rd episode with Nina Mori. You know, everyone talks about how mature she is for her age when, you know, everyone's accusing her dad of sleeping with this girl and all that. She's like, "Oh, it's not any big deal. I'm so mature for my age." But then then in the 6th episode, she says a line like basically, "Oh, he should," you know, when they're talking about Naota, he's like, "He should do what I did. I went home to my parents and told them how I felt, and then I cried and stuff." So it's the whole meaning of the show, which is, you know, something that's been done in shows countless times since, like in Gurren Lagann, you know, basically be who you are, be yourself, and
But I think I honestly
all that sort of stuff.
The difference between Fully Cooley and Gurren Lagann is Fully Cooley tells you to be yourself. Gurren Lagann tells you be yourself, and giant robots will grow drills for you and allow you to defeat world destroying enemies.
This is true. Gurren Lagann does have that going for him. However, you have to admit, when Naota gets Adamuska's power, in that 6th episode, and is glowing Super Saiyan red and goes around beating the crap out of Haruko.
Super Saiyans glow yellow.
Well, yeah, it's essentially Super Saiyan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
we
when
got the reference.
when he's doing that, like, that's pretty awesome. Or when they're fighting giant robots, it's like, okay, that's pretty cool,
Yeah.
All right. I feel like I'm the one leading a lot of the conversation here.
Well, yeah, because again, just to reference this for people who can't see, he has 2 pages of notes, and I know you're not going through every bullet point, but you're touching quite a few.
Yeah, actually, I'm not took that many, honestly, because once again, a lot to say about this, but overall, like, this is probably a show I'd place in my top 5. Like, once again, originally I wasn't a huge fan of it. I thought it was okay, but once I sort of rewatched it again and found all this depth and meaning to the show, like, it's interesting because you make the point about its similarities to Gurren Lagann, and it's even crazier than Gurren Lagann is, which is something that's kind of hard to comprehend, but it's true. It's like completely insane, and the animation is all over the place. One moment it looks like South Park, and the next it's, something else entirely. But then, and yet at the same time, even though it's crazier than Gurren Lagann, the serious moments within the show, the dramatic moments, I take those a lot more seriously than I do with the serious moments in Gurren Lagann. So it's this sort of weird dichotomy to me.
What I say as for this as for this anime, is if you're looking for an anime to enjoy just solely based on face value, you will not enjoy this anime. Whereas if only on face value, like, because you have to admit, all of the random dialogue, the random animation, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I get that, but at the same time, like Jeremy said, like, just watching the show at face value, it's not a great show. It's an okay to good show, but I think it's still worth watching even for that, just to see the animation and the crazy fight scenes and it does have funny lines. It is quite a funny show.
Honestly, I would only agree with that on something like Redline, because Redline, not only is it like beautiful, but like it's always like it's action packed. There's almost no just like normal like scenes. Whereas in Fully Cooley, yes, there's some action, but a lot of it are like some of the slower, kind of dragging on parts of it. I'm not knocking Fully Cooley. It's just that on face value, I don't think it's that great of an anime. Whereas if you want to watch an anime that you really like, you want to watch something that kind of makes you think and you have to look more in depth into it, then Fully Cooley is the perfect anime for you. That you should definitely see it. And
it's not Evangelion.
Yeah, and the ending is actually like good. Like,
yeah, it actually has an ending.
Yeah, exactly. So
like Evangelion and every other Gainax.
Oh no,
Gurren Lagann.
Okay, I'll give you Gurren Lagann, but aside from Gurren Lagann and Fully Cooley,
yeah, that's it.
Let's face it, Gainax has a history of not ending their shows.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know too much about their other shows. One quick thing, I forgot to mention this in the chorus section, but I wanted to make sure we talked about it, was something I noticed at the very beginning of episode 6, when they're listening to the radio while training, and it says something about Cabbage Corp, which is a technology company that's been in Republic City for 50 years. And I have a theory that Cabbage Corp was founded by the Cabbage Guy from the first show. He somehow became like a millionaire.
His son has become Iman, and Cabbage Corp is secretly funding Iman.
That would be awesome.
Because remember, it is a technological corporation, so maybe that. Oh my god!
It really could.
This is like the worst epileptic tree ever. But if it's real, I'm gonna laugh.
And I also think maybe because when Sato was talking about how he got the money to do the Sato movie, it was like, I came in with just an idea and somebody funded me, and now look where I am now.
Maybe it's the Cabbage Corp.
Exactly. If this Cabbage Corp has all this money, maybe they gave it to him. So that'd be a cool story. All right. So that was our talk about Korra and Fully Cooley. For next week, we had discussed last time about doing Ninja Scroll, and we know it's on Netflix instant streaming now, so I believe we are going to do that, correct?
Yes, but remember, there is more.
Oh, yes.
We're also doing a super secret anime that we don't even know what it is yet. All we know is it's bad enough to make a grown man cry, but still legal in the United States.
Yes.
You don't know the title of it?
Well, we have to figure out which one is accessible.
Oh,
basically.
okay.
Well, technically, there's like 3 of them that are accessible, but it's kind of going to end up being a coin toss about which one we actually watch.
Well, just know that we'll be talking. We'll do a review of Ninja Scrolls, and then we'll do a sort of review on a really bad anime that you guys can go back and watch depending on how you like our
Actually,
talk about
depending
it.
on which bad anime we watch, I may not suggest watching it. If 1 or 2 of them, I would suggest. 2 of them, I don't hate anyone who's listening enough to ever make you watch them.
Yeah. So basically, yes, we're going to be watching. It may not even be anime. It's probably going to be animation of some sort.
Actually, all 4 we suggested were anime.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, something really bad, basically. We want to just be able to watch it and have fun and make fun of it, and we'll come on the podcast and rant about it a bit. I looked on the Alden Library website, and I found the worst thing I could find was a animated live-action crossover film called Cool World, a Ralph Bakshi film from like the 80s.
That's too obscure.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, the things you were
It also
suggesting were pretty obscure too.
No, well, at least people know what I'm talking about. The other thing is, though, too, that sounds almost like one of those Who Framed Roger Rabbit ripoffs.
Well, it sounds like that. I just know it had a Metacritic score of like 28, so it's pretty bad, whatever it is. So if we're looking for bad movies, there's a possibility. So yes, we're going to be talking about Ninja Scroll, probably the next 2 episodes of Korra, and a really bad animation of some sort. And that's going to be on the season finale of Shredded Cels, because we're going to be heading home for the summer here pretty soon.
What?
Woo! No excitement there, Jeremy?
I have at least 8 more exams to take care of. So until I'm done with that, this is as much as you get.
We'll see you. Well, that was a lot of enthusiasm. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
All right. And if you want to email us, you should email us at techheads@avwproductions.com. Follow us on Twitter at techheadsou. Like us on Facebook. We have a Techheads Facebook page. You should like us on... Oh, yes, Mark?
You can follow Alex on Twitter at
Darth Schmitz.
You can follow me on Twitter at mgoldsmith. You cannot follow Jeremy for all you Jer Bear fans out there.
Which there are none. Again, do we really have to keep
All of
making
them,
this joke every
all of
episode?
them, all of the fans.
Guys, let's stop making this joke. I'm not getting a Twitter. It's simple as that. I have no need for one. It's not useful to me in any way, shape, or form.
I think the Jeremy not having a Twitter joke never gets old, and it gets better.
it got old after the second episode of whatever it was a year ago.
Yeah, it's our oldest reoccurring joke, but besides Totodile.
But
Yes, and you should
Actually, it's older than Totodile.
It is older than Totodile. This is true. You should also subscribe to us on iTunes, give us a rating and a review. And this is some shameless self-plugging for myself, but I just recently wrote an article for the Nintendo fan site ZeldaInformer.com. You should go check it out because it's about the Wii U launch games, what they could be.
Wii U.
Exactly.
and check out Bits and Bytes
Yes,
on YouTube.
Bits and Bytes, our Tech Ed show on YouTube. Go to our blog at avwproductions.com. It's right there on the front page for all of you guys to read. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
This has been Shredded Cels, episode 8, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
This product is copyright AVW Productions 2020.